Hi, everybody. Hey, it's Mr. Pyle. I'm here with an additional bonus information for you on ethos, pathos, and logos. It's a very short PowerPoint. This is going to be less than 10 minutes if you want to get into it. We're looking at the slide. Whatever opinion you have about anything has been shaped, whether you knew it or not, by the three modes of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. But Dorothy, you've always had the power to go home. That's my Wizard of Oz impression. Whether you were specifically familiar with the terms or not, you've used them your entire life, and you've also had them used on you your entire life. And in fact, I say that any opinion you have about almost anything at all has been shaped by someone else using ethos, pathos, and logos on you. So, why are this knowledge of ethos, pathos, and logos important? I like to say that it's you want to have these things in your bag of tricks to be able to pull them out at random, or not really the opposite of random, whenever you actually need them. So it will allow you to more specifically fine tune an argument or opinion or convince somebody else to get what you want. So you want to know how to use these ethos, pathos, and logos to be able to play someone. And I'm using this term very lightly, of course. And possibly more importantly, you want to know when somebody's trying to play you. You want to be aware of what different tactics they're using to try to convince you to do something or to not to do something. So it's always a good tip. The most important thing for any speech, whether it's one-on-one or a large audience, is to know your audience. You must know your audience. And in order to do that, or once you do figure out your audience, you can become a chameleon, meaning that you match as a speaker or presenter, you match your audience as much as possible. So what this means is that if you can identify somebody that is very heavily in the logos field, meaning they operate on logic, then in your communication with that person, you should try to work on a very logical manner. You can almost think about the different professors you've had at Robert Morris over the time. Some of us would be ethos, some of us would be pathos, and some of us would be logos. And you could kind of think about the different personalities when we think of classification division. You can divide people into different personalities, and really we fall into uh, one of these three categories. And professions as well. For example, doctors and scientists, accountants, these are very logos based or logic based fields of study. Teaching English is a very pathos heavy field of study. So when we read short stories, etc., these are all about emotion. The main idea is emotion. So that's a very pathos heavy field. So, as much as possible, whatever you can identify, you use it to your benefit. So, if somebody is a very emotionally based person, then you too can try to possibly play the pathos card a little more than, say, the logic card. A little background on the history of ethos, pathos, and logos. Really, Aristotle, who was a philosopher, and the meaning of philosophy is to try to provide a framework or structure to address or answer questions that really can't be answered definitively. So we can only set up this structure to come as close as possible. So when we ask questions like, how did our planet Earth get here? And what happens to us after we die? And is there a higher being, a God, etc.? Nobody can answer these questions. So philosophy allows us to frame heavy things in a manner in which we can understand and be able to discuss them. But ethos, pathos, and logos from Aristotle 2,500 years ago, so even 500 years before Jesus, the person, was born, he came up with this classification. The modes of persuasion is the classification, and then ethos, pathos, and logos are three distinct ways in order to convince somebody else. So they're in Greek origin, and this is why they appear when we write them out in italics. Any foreign words, meaning non-English words that we use in the English language, if we've not changed the spelling, we preserve the original italics. When we say the three modes of persuasion, once again, this is the idea of convincing other people to buy into either a very light or a very heavy or somewhere in between opinion that you have. You use these on other people all the time, and other people use them on you all the time. Any good argument, whether you're speaking or writing your opinion, and when we say the word argument, it's basically whatever opinion you have backed with as much evidence as you can offer. So an argument really is just an opinion, hopefully backed with as much evidence as possible. But any really good written or oral argument, oral meaning, of course, spoken argument, is going to have a little bit of ethos, it's going to have a little bit of pathos, and it's going to have a little bit of logos. It's best to use all three in order to really effectively get your point across. So the first one here is ethos, which is an appeal in an argument using one's character. Character. Another way to think about ethos is one's social or personal or professional reputation or credibility. So this would be how others view you. Ethos is, we do have an English word that's based on ethos, and that's ethics, the idea of right and wrong, ethics, right and wrong. And ethics really, the best definition I've ever heard of it is what we do when we're alone, meaning absolutely nobody can see us or witness us. So it's a very true manner of who we are when no one else, it's how we behave when no one else can see us. There was a famous commercial in the 70s for some type of aspirin, and it was really very good comedian fodder. They had a really good time with this because there was an actor from a soap opera that played a doctor, and he came on a commercial and he says, "You know, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV." And that's why this particular brand of aspirin, unfortunately, it escapes me, but this is why this particular aspirin is good. You can trust me because I play a doctor on television as an actor. And it was really funny because it points out the kind of irony of ethos. This is exactly not the person we should be seeking medical advice from. This was a very bad use of character. This person was not in a position to accurately, make a suggestion that can be taken seriously. So a good way to think about or frame ethos is what you would expect a blank to know or to be able to do. So what knowledge, whatever you could put in the blank, how would you expect a blank to know or act, etc.? So for example, if we put college graduate in there, so what would you expect a college graduate to know and be able to do? Well, we would expect a college graduate to be able to communicate well, both written and in speaking. You would have vast knowledge on your subject, your major field of study. You'd be able to, if someone had a culinary degree, for example, you would really expect this person to be a good cook. Otherwise, it would be very ironic or the opposite of what we expect. So, an ethos is when we use our character to make an appeal. Um, for example, I teach English and writing and literature, et cetera, et cetera. So, really, you would expect me to do a lot of reading. You would expect me to write, maybe write for publication. You would expect me to be able to talk accurately about famous classic American novels and short stories. You would expect me to have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of movies. And in fact, all that is true. It's really not only my interest, but it's really part of my character. In addition to that, I have a degree in English as well, so that is speaks to my character, meaning that I've officially got a piece of paper that puts me in a position to say I'm aware of all things, not all things, but many things English, let's say. So ethos is how really you know which car mechanic to go to. That when you call your computer network person at your business, or the place that you work to be able to come in and know what he or she is talking about. When you have, let's say, troubles, with your relationship, which friend do you absolutely know to call, and maybe the opposite of that, which friend do you stay away from? Ethos is knowing what political candidate you want to vote for. Hey, how do you know if your mate is a good person or not? That's ethos. If he or she or even them, hey, I don't know what you're up to, but if they can prove to you that they're a really good person. Ethos is when Beyonce puts an album out and nobody even knew that this was coming onto the internet that you could buy. Beyonce's ethos. Really, you don't have to necessarily hear it or preview it or read reviews of it. If it's Beyonce and she's proven to you in the past that she's got great stuff, chances are really good that this too will be good. So your university transcript is an example of ethos. These are that you've proven that you've successfully gone through all these classes and challenges, and you've gotten all the way to the end with your degree. That's really speaks to your character. And also say which companies have a good reputation and a not so good reputation. These are ethos. That's their credibility speaking. Pathos is when we make an appeal using emotion. It's almost the easiest kind of go-to one to go with. Not everybody has logic, but every single person is familiar with emotions because we're all equal in that category. So pathos is very powerful. Oftentimes, emotions supersede or have a stronger presence than even logic. This is why sometimes when someone's in a bad relationship, an abusive relationship, we might not be able to necessarily understand why that person stays. Logically, why would somebody go through this? And this is because the power of emotion is very, very strong. Pathos is most often witnessed in almost all advertising. Advertising is the thesis is to get you to open up your wallet and buy this product or that product, but they are very specifically appealing to your emotions. If you already use the product, they're making you feel good about doing it. And if you're not, then potentially you're a loser for not participating what everybody else is doing. Pathos is very much the central component in all art, conflict, the idea of emotion in movies and film and short stories. Conflict, it's very much an emotional appeal. So when I get an email or a call from a student and says, I had a pet goldfish named Goldie and it died today. I found it floating. I'm very distraught about this. I'm not going to make it to class. That's an argument using pathos. You want to make sure with pathos, it's very strong. Don't lay it on too thick. Pathos examples are the Sarah McLachlan public service announcements with the sad dogs. Uh, Next time you watch television and or a movie, there's almost constantly music being played very softly under it. That very subconsciously influences our mood. Photos and visuals, etc., also are very pathos driven. Logos is an appeal using logic. This is when we use facts or opinion or facts to support one's argument. Logos is very non-emotional. There's really very little emotion attached to it. So driving down the Kennedy the other day, there was a sign that blasts the number of people that died last year in car accidents, and we got up to about 990 people. The number was 990. And this really didn't have too much of an effect on me. It was just a number. I personally didn't know anybody that was killed in an auto accident last year. So this really it was just a random number to me. A writer and speaker, when we use sources or quote other people, this is good that we are able to tell whether a source is a good source or not. That's also ethos as well, choosing good sources for us. So, for example, business at yahoo.com reports that the job market in the computer security will increase by 62% over the next 3 years. That's actually citing a source or number or percent. So, for example, if someone wants a good job in computers, computer security might be the way to go. I'm almost done with my 15 minutes here, so actually I'm going to stop this one and I'm going to try to squeeze everything on part two. This is, it's there for if you'd like it. So I'll be back in 1 second. Thanks.